Hi folks, this is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and today we are going to work on a pretty little bracelet using pieces from our SoftFlex Foxy Lady design kit. I went to start this earlier and realized that I was missing a piece I needed, so I ordered that and it came from SoftFlex yesterday, so now we have everything ready to go. So let's turn down and we'll get started with it. So I have the SoftFlex wire and the crimp tubes out from my kit. This is what I was missing. I needed a gold ring. So I ordered some from SoftFlex, and as you can see I ordered a few extras, so I'd have some extra ones. But we just need one of these rings. So we have the one ring. And then I have various beads from out of the kit here. Now I've got a button that I've painted. This is going to be one of our ends. I've got a piece of leather. This is, I believe, 8 inches. You need at least 6 inches for this bracelet. A little bit more is always better. So this is 9 inches actually. So anyway, we're going to be tying a couple of knots in this, and knots take up a lot of space. So we are going to need that extra space for our knots. So we'll put that aside for right now. We don't need it right away. This is the extra beads from the bead strand, the bone Foxy Lady bead strand, because I'm going to use some of the beads out of it. I have split it up already. A few of these are actually from the bead mix. All of these are over here. These are actually from the bead strand. And then we've got all of these. So now we've got to decide how we want to make a pattern out of these beads. So firstly, we'll start with what we want to make as the focal of this piece. And I'm thinking maybe one of these really cool porcelain pieces will make a good focal. But if I use that as a focal, I probably will not be using the second one. So we will maybe like this. Let's cut these two apart so that we can decide what we want to do with these beads. We are going to work some of them into the bracelet just because I think they're really pretty and the colors go really well together. So like so. Now, unless we want these towards the front and take something else out, I probably won't use these because they're quite large. And I'm thinking instead of putting these little teardrops right here first, we'll go with this particular bead. I like to call them flat rondelles. They're rondelles, but they're flattened on the one side. And then we will quite truthfully, this baby as long as we need it to be. So I'm going to find some I like spacer beads, so I'll probably find a few spacer beads to put in here. We do have some here. I think we'll put them around this gold bead. I'm going to use these little leaves as dangles from off of the ring. I'll probably put a little bead with them, so we'll have these guys. And unless we need these other beads, I think we're probably done gathering beads up, other than, like I say, maybe one or two more spacers. Okay, I got a few more spacers out. One is a bead cap, because as you can see, these are little ends are chipping, so we'll put the bead cap over it to hide that fact and to keep it from chipping anymore. So the first thing we want to do is we want to hook our button with our wire. So we'll cut off a length of wire. I'm going to cut off 10 inches, though I don't need that much because we're really only going to use about 5 or 6 inches of beads. We'll leave it at 8. 8's good. And the first thing we want to do is get a crimp bead out. And crimp it to our button. Or you could crimp it to the ring, whichever one you prefer. I usually start with the button, if no other reason because I want to make sure that the bead I have here is going to go underneath our button, because it's going to slide underneath there, and we want to make sure that it's not overly large when it goes underneath our button. So we'll just crimp our button onto our bracelet. Now I use the magical crimpers, so we just crimp that right there, give it a squish, turn it, and squish it until it's not squishing anymore. Then you'll give it a tug test to make sure that it's good and tight. And there we go. It's good and tight and ready to go. Anyway, we're going to start putting these beads on. We're going to see if this one is small enough on this end. If it seems like it's too big, then we will need to put a smaller one underneath there. Okay, come on. I know you'll go in here. There we go. Oh, I think that's going to be just perfectly fine. So we'll just keep stringing up, make sure that we haven't got it too long. If it's too long, then we'll have to, of course, take a few off. Now, here is our bead strand all done up, and I'm fairly certain that well, maybe it's going to be about perfect. Let's put a bead stopper here on this end. And I'll take off, and we'll put it here. Now I've got this a little bit tight. I can feel it doesn't want to move any. And the next thing we're going to do is put the ring on, and then the leather piece. It actually may not even be quite big enough. But let's see. So we put this around here. We're going to hook our ring on right here, and then our leather, and it'll be about like so. So let's measure that and see how it's going to work. What we'll do is we'll put the crimp on, and then put the ring on to here, crimp it backwards, and then we're going to measure it and see what our distance is, because we don't want it much longer than the than where it comes to the button, because that's the leather is going to be our closure. So we want it to come to about each other. So say like this, and see the leather's going to have a knot here, and then it'll have the opening. And I think you know, we could put one more bead on here, but it would have to be a small one, and I'm not going to go all the way from the other side. If I do put one on, I will just put on one of these little guys right here, just to give a little tiny bit more space to this side. And if I were to put it on over here, it would probably go under the button anyway, so I'm not going to bother to do that. But I think I will put this and another little spacer, which I have a couple of those here, and we'll see then what the length is. Hope I don't need 4, I only need 1. So we'll pull this back off right here. The spacer on, and then the tiny little bead, and this will actually pull these beads into it when we, so like so. Now we'll check it again by again putting the ring on. This could be a little teeny bit tighter here. Alrighty, now we'll put it around my arm again, and we'll see where she sits. And that is about perfect. So we'll crimp this baby down here, and then we'll start putting the rest of the pieces in. So we'll get our crimp pliers, and we'll get our little tube right into that slot there. We're going to pull it up a little bit tighter and squish. Turn and squish until it doesn't want to squish anymore. Tug test. nice and tight, cut the extra wire. Oh, come on, baby. There we go. So now that we've got this done, our next step is to put our leather on. So this is a really simple step. All you need to do is take your leather, fold it in half, put it through your ring, and then pull your pieces through. And there we go with our half hitch knot to hold that in place. And then the last step, well, as far as the bracelet itself is concerned, is ascertaining your knot, your ending knot. And to do that, you just need to figure out about how big your bead is, your button is, which is about right here. So then we want to tie a knot right here so that you can get this so your button fits through it good. Like I say, we want to tie a knot so that the button can fit through but not have a lot of excess room. So we'll just carefully pull this around and knot it in a regular overhand knot. And if you can't get a good hold on your leather, just get your pliers out and pull it through if you need to. Okay, now we'll need to check and see if this is going to fit good. So just slide your button between your leather. And that's fitting about perfectly. So there we go. Now you can cut your leather pieces off now if you want, or you can leave that little tail. I'm going to leave the tail, but what I am going to do is make sure that they're about the same and at an angle. I like an angle on my leather. So just cut it at a slight angle like that. And we're going to leave that like that. Now the last step is to get some wire and wire these little dangles up and put them on the bracelet. So let's go back through with our button so that we have more room to work. And we can put the rest of our beads away in a bit here. And in fact, let's do that now so they're not in the way and I don't lose them. So we need to get a teeny bit of wire, as I said, to wire these up and hook them to our ring. So I'll be right back as soon as I get a little piece of wire. A piece of 20 gauge German style wire. And we are going to put these on one and this on the other on a second and hook them to our ring right here. So in order to do that, all we need to do is make a loop. Now I use my stepped bell making pliers on the smallest for most of my loops. I am going to use the second size up for the second loop on this after we get our bead on, because we want to have it big enough to easily go around our ring. So now that I've got this beginning, I'm going to put my leaf down on here. Come on, baby. There we go. Hold this with my pliers right where the connection is here. As you can see. Grab my second pair of pliers, and I'm going to wrap it 2 or 3 times. Now that we've got that tucked nicely on there, we'll put the bead on. Then we will. Now we want to pay attention to the way we want this to fall. Since we have the leaf here and we want it this way, we're going to want it to, the circle to come this way. So we just spin that over. Now I'm going to use the second, so I have the slightly larger size coming around. I'm going to leave this open some so I can get the ring through here. Go through the ring. Come on, baby, come down here. There we go. Now I bent that a little when it came on, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. Now I'm not going to be able to hold this with the pliers, so I'm just going to grab it with tightly with my thumb and forefinger, and then wrap it. Probably, well, I am going to try and hold this with my pliers because it's not so easy with just my fingers. So we're going to just carefully grab it right all together here. And then wrap. And there we go. All wrapped up. So now we're going to cut the excess wire. And tuck that in. And as you can see, I bent the wire somewhat when I was working, so we're just going to take it and bend it back into place. And that looks pretty good. And so now we'll make our other little leaf dangle exactly the same way. Just take our wire, which I now have all crooked. I'm going to cut the little end off because it's got a sharp edge right there. Bend her over, make our loop, put our leaf in, grab it, switch hands. Now I'm right hand dominant, and that's why I always switch hands. You do not have to if you are not. Some people find it easier to use their other hand. Now if you want to know why I'm taking it and using my pliers to do that last little bend, I find that when it gets really small like that and it doesn't want to bend over, that if you use your pliers to make the bend, you just ease it along with your pliers and it works so much better. Up and over and around. Now we'll slide this one on the ring. We're going to grab it, ring and all, and then wrap. Clip off your extra wire. And tuck it in. Now if you end up making a messy wrap, I'm not particularly fond of messy wraps, but I know that some people are. So if that's the case and you like a messy wrap, no problem. Make a messy wrap. There we go. We got that all tucked in. And we are now finished. What do you think? Like this? Now we just, here's what our bracelet looks like. We put our button through its leather piece, and come on, and there's what she looks like all finished. Isn't that pretty? Hope you enjoyed making this with me. I enjoyed making it with you. And let's turn up and have a little talk. So anyway, this is our pretty little bracelet. We used our Foxy Lady kit from the SoftFlex Company. That's the design kit. And I think it turned out really pretty. Nearly everything in this is from the kit except some of the spacers. This bead cap, the bead caps here that I put on to protect the point on the teardrops. A little bit of wire, the button and the leather and the ring. Very pretty. So let's see how long it ended up being, shall we? Okay, we'll slide it on the sizer here. And it ended up being about between 7 1/4 and 7 1/2, closer to 7 1/2, which is a good size. That's about the average size for most people, so that's good. And I really enjoyed making this with you. I hope you enjoyed making it as well. And pretty Foxy Lady bracelet from the SoftFlex Design Kit, Foxy Lady. It's been Rose from In Rose's Garden, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.